Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars Rebels episode review. This one is going to be for Season 3, Episode 19, Double Agent Droid. And yeah, I thought this was a very enjoyable episode. I really actually liked this one. I wasn't expecting to really at all. If you watched my last week's video, you probably saw at the end I was kind of like, okay, they're doing something with Chopper. The Empire kind of like tech squad is going to try and figure him out. That could be cool, you know, they're finally trying to like figure out the droid that's been messing with them for so long. But it's still just a droid episode, and like this is the episode before the Obi-Wan and Maul stuff. Like, why are we getting this now? But actually watching it, it was a ton of fun. AP5 and Chopper's kind of interactions are always really cool to see. And then kind of them sticking Wedge on the mission with them because no one else wanted to go with them made for a fun one because he's relatively new to the kind of rebellion. So seeing him just be like, oh, why did I agree to this mission? These two are just like mind-numbing to be around. Was fun. Even though we didn't get a ton of character development at Wedge, it was fun to see him in his kind of younger form here, just like as his first like key mission for the rebellion, just this frustrating thing that he's kind of dealt with. That this was his first thing. That by the time we meet Wedge in like A New Hope, he's been through a lot to get to the position where he's like a super respected pilot. So it was fun to see him kind of go through being stuck with these type of missions. But then the actual plot of the episode, they're sent in to get basically security codes to get back into Lothal, and they get them. But as Chopper is kind of plugging in to kind of figure out what's going on, the Empire Tech Support Squad, I don't really know what way to call them, figure this out. They track the fact that Chopper has just come onto this base, and they manage to remote take control of him through the port that he's plugged into, and then are planning to use him by basically letting them get away with the codes that they get, but use Chopper and kind of report back the location of the Rebels base once they get there. And it made for a really fun episode when you see that AP5, because of his general attitude, because he's the main one who notices that something's up with Chopper, but because of his annoying attitude, he turns people off from like listening to him. That like no one is believing AP5 because he just argues so much with Chopper that this is just another thing to try and get Chopper into trouble. But then Wedge is kind of like, actually I did notice Chopper acting a little weird, he was being nice, but because Wedge is relatively new, maybe this is just something that Chopper does from time to time. So he wasn't fully sure, but like once everyone found out that wait, Chopper's being nice, it's just like panic stations hit the button, and you saw obviously what happened then once they were on the ships on the Ghost. Just seeing him take over basically the Ghost, kind of strand the others kind of outside, and AP5 having to kind of fight Chopper basically outside the ship. Even though it wasn't like a overly impressive fight, it's just seeing kind of AP5 kind of in an action type setting on the outside of a ship to kind of manually kind of turn it off, and them finishing things just before the data spike is done and the Empire gets all the information that they need. The other kind of key bit of the episode was just like, I really liked towards the end of the episode when Hera realized what they had done to Chopper, how protective she got, how angry and like annoyed she got at the Empire. That usually she's fairly calm and composed, even when fighting the Empire. But just the attitude that she took over, just like, no one messes with my droid, we are killing them. And just the plan that she had to basically just, okay, they've got a crazy like system to control Chopper from this far away. Yes, use the fact that their connection has to be so intense and reverse that on them. We'll send so much power back in the opposite direction that we are going to overload the ship. It was slightly unbelievable in that, like, okay, it's Star Wars, but how on earth are they sending like this amount of crazy power back through like a wireless signal? I guess it roughly works, but still a little unbelievable. But it made for a really cool moment of just Hera just basically remotely blowing up an entire like station, basically a like tech monitoring station for the Empire, and it just completely exploded, killing all of those characters who we dealt with on the Empire side for the whole episode. I was kind of expecting maybe a little bit right at the end of the episode where they'd confirmed that, like, oh, the Empire had actually managed to send like a key piece of information to Thrawn or something like that, that it wasn't all a loss for the Empire here. But I suppose Thrawn will probably somehow manage to find a way to like realize that, oh, like the signal that was sent to the ship to destroy it came from here, so that means that we know roughly where they are. He'll probably find some way to use this situation to learn something more about them, but I was kind of surprised in the episode that they didn't kind of do anything to further the Empire's kind of zoning in on where the Rebel base is. But yeah, just really impressive that like just Hera just like destroying that ship like that, and how angry she was, and then how happy everyone was once kind of Chopper was kind of back properly. And then immediately the arguing starts again, and then they realize, where's AP5? He kind of he saved the day here. Where is he? We didn't believe him. And you cut to him just flying through space peacefully. You'd think he'd be panicking because of the type of character he is, but he's just like, actually, I'm really calm here. Then the kind of space kind of bugs start coming around him, and they're really peaceful with him. He feels completely at ease because no one's screaming at him. There's nothing to annoy him. It's all just peaceful. And then he starts singing. I thought that was a brilliant way to end the episode, with just the absurdity in a way of his character, that he just appreciates like peace so much that he would actually jump into singing. This like this Imperial droid who cares so much about order, just like singing a song and kind of doing something that is so like unlike him based on what we usually know of him, was just such a fun way to end the episode, as they pick him up kind of so unceremoniously. They just like reverse the ghost into him without really slowing down, but just have the door open, so he just kind of slams into the ship, and that's how his peaceful kind of dance in space is kind of brought to an end. So really, really fun episode overall. Again, nothing like hugely mind-blowingly important to report back on, but I suppose what this maybe means is that Chopper can't really go on any of these missions anymore, because he's just going to be found out, and there's always the potential that the Empire kind of tech side of things takes Chopper over again. So they're going to have to be very careful with where they use Chopper going forward, and it means they're maybe going to have to bring in other droids that do fit in more with the Imperials to actually gain an advantage here. So I don't know, like if what this episode was trying to tell us is just that they can't use Chopper on these missions in this way anymore, or what. But it was definitely a fun use of Chopper to actually establish that Chopper's actually been very important in what the Empire has, in all the losses that the Empire has suffered recently, and they've actually implemented all of these kind of countermeasures to try and capture the kind of droid infiltrator, I think, as they call him. So it made the episode feel somewhat important that the Empire had, like, basically put this note out there to almost anyone monitoring any station that, like, if you see a droid that looks like this is probably a rebel droid infiltrator, and it's important to deal with that. And seeing the main guy in charge of this kind of be like, okay, there's a 31% chance that the rebels get away with the plans and we lose. But there's an 82% chance that what happens here is that we find out the location of their base. And that kind of counters the fact of, like, basically the reason the percentages are a little bit off is that, like, there's also the chance that, like, the 31% chance links in with the 81% chance, so that they find the base and the rebels get the codes, but there's also the chance that they don't get the codes, but they also find out where the base is, and that's how it works. So that was interesting as well. Beyond that, fun little kind of thing of just everyone joking about, like, AP5, that he follows people into, like, the refresher, as they call it, the bathroom, basically. But yeah, I think that's the episode. I thought it was a very good episode, even if there's not a ton to discuss really within the episode. It was just a very fun and enjoyable episode that wasn't crazy important, but felt more important than a lot of other episodes that maybe should have been like much more interesting. So definitely a surprise hit. Kind of actually like the introduction of AP5 episode, which was surprisingly like excellent. I think last season. But yeah, next episode, Twin Suns, Maul versus Kenobi. I hope this is kind of just a one-off episode. I really hope that this episode is basically just following Maul as he goes to Tatooine and hunts for Obi-Wan. He encounters Obi-Wan, and we just see what happens from there. I feel that what they need to do here is, I feel they kind of have to bring the character of Maul to an end. I think there's still a lot of people who are frustrated just by the fact that they brought Maul back. They said he survived the duel on Naboo, and I think people have been relatively okay with what he's done since then, in terms of like trying to go out on his own, savage your press, and do all this stuff, Mandalorians. I think it's time to bring his character full circle and have Obi-Wan, I think, take him out. I think the worst thing that they could do here is have the Ghost crew overly involved in this episode and have like Kanan and Ezra be the ones to kill Maul in the end. I think it has to be Kenobi, because he has such a relationship with Maul, because of that first duel, because of the whole Satine thing, and because of the amount of encounters they had over the course of the Clone Wars. It has to be Kenobi Maul as the main gist of this episode. Their battle has to come to an end on that front. And even if Kenobi doesn't kill Maul, I think he has to win the duel that they do have. I'd be so frustrated if Kenobi is losing to Maul. I get he maybe hasn't used his lightsaber in so long, but I think Kenobi is just such a master of Surizu that the advantages that he's had over Maul in their last couple of duels should carry on into this duel. And I feel his just mastery and experience at this point should give him the edge, especially given that Kenobi is so driven to protect Luke and potentially Maul. I think that could be maybe the turning point in the battle. Like maybe if Kenobi is struggling a bit, that Maul may be alluding to the fact that Kenobi's protecting something here and maybe senses like Luke nearby. That basically spurs Kenobi on to maybe win the fight. I could see them maybe doing something like that, teasing Luke as the way to do it. And he maybe gets the advantage in the fight as maybe the other Ghost crew members arrive, and Maul is kind of injured after the fight with Kenobi, he's lost, and it just comes down to maybe Ezra, in terms of a dark side moment, taking Maul out when he's injured or something like that. But I do think it has to be Kenobi's victory in this fight, and I think a lot of people will be very frustrated if they don't get this right. The last big duel that they did, Ahsoka Vader, they got it spot on, I think, even though they didn't fully commit to an ending. This is a fight where they do kind of have to commit to an ending. I suppose there's always the potential that they do continue to keep Maul alive and keep him going as a character, but I think it's about time to kind of let him go. We're getting very close to A New Hope. I don't think Maul is alive going into New Hope era, because obviously the death of Vader is kind of meant to be the death of all of the Sith, minus of course what they're doing in the new kind of trilogy of stuff, but still. So I think Maul has to be killed at some point here, and this seems like the perfect episode to do it. Beyond just the fight, I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do here. Based on the little clips we've seen of the episode, it seems like what they're going to do with this one is definitely make it somewhat of a Maul-centric episode. We're going to delve into the fact that mentally he's not really in the best spot. His quest for revenge against Kenobi and everything that's happened has taken him over. In a way, that's been what his downfall has been caused by. His obsession with Kenobi has ultimately been the problem. And yes, he has devoted himself to Kenobi ever since Kenobi cut him in half, and it's kind of caused most of his problems, because he was on the ascendancy to becoming like the second guy in the Sith, but everything obviously happened the way it did, and he kind of fell down because of this. So Maul has a reason to be angry at Kenobi, but also Kenobi has a lot of reason to hate Maul as well. So they just need to get this right. This needs to be perfect. Like the proper introduction of Kenobi into Rebels they need to do it right. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this episode, Double Agent Droid, as well as what are your expectations for the next episode. Is it going to be the death of Maul, the Kenobi Maul battle? Do you agree with me in that Kenobi has to win that battle? Will it be the end of Maul as a character? Or what are they going to do? Because to me, I'm not seeing a ton of links between Twin Suns and necessarily what's going to happen in the 2-part finale. That seems like some battle over Lothal, whereas this is like Tatooine. So I feel this almost has to be a kind of side episode in a way. A very important side episode, but like separate from almost anything else going on. So yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.